Junwoo, a Korean teenager, was gaming at home when he suddenly felt the ground shake. Thinking it was an earthquake, he rushed out to the balcony only to realize, horrified, that it was something far worse. Chaos had erupted in the neighborhood. People were fleeing in all directions, fire trucks crashed and swerved out of control, and deranged individuals were attacking others like wild animals, biting anyone they could get their hands on. He saw a mother sprint out with a kitchen knife, trying to rescue her daughter, but in a brutal twist, the daughter snapped eyes wide and bit deep into her mother's neck, tackling her to the ground in a frenzy. Still stunned, Junwoo suddenly heard desperate screams and pounding on his apartment door. He crept to the peephole, nothing. Hesitantly, he turned the knob to check. Just then, a frantic man forced his way inside. Junwoo yelled at him to leave, but the man pleaded to use the bathroom. Reluctantly, Junwoo let him in, warning, "Make it quick." As the man shut the bathroom door, an emergency broadcast lit up the TV screen. A deadly virus was spreading, turning people into violent, bloodthirsty maniacs. One bite was all it took to become infected. Heart racing, Junwoo grabbed a kitchen knife and shouted at the man to get out immediately. The man emerged, clutching a bleeding wound on his neck, insisting he was fine, but his eyes suddenly turned bloodshot. Veins pulsing, he was transforming.
No.
Without warning, he lunged. Junwoo acted on pure instinct, shoving him back with everything he had and slamming the door shut. Panicked, he dragged the fridge over to block the entrance, then tried desperately to call his parents, but no one picked up. Eventually, a message came through from his mom. They were safe. For now, she begged him not to go outside, to stay alive, and wait for rescue. That night, Junwoo gathered what little food he had. At first, he divided it into 7 meals. Then he changed his mind, better stretch it to 9. There was no telling how long this nightmare would last. The next day, he saw others posting rescue videos online, so he recorded one of his own, hoping someone would see it. But his hope quickly faded. Some people were live streaming their situations. If rescue was coming, it would have already arrived. Determined to get a better look, he attached his phone to a drone and flew it out over the neighborhood. All he saw were zombies, not a single living soul. That night, just as sleep finally came, he was jolted awake by gunfire. A female police officer was down below, shooting at a swarm of zombies chasing her. The gunshots only attracted more. Moments later, she was tackled and consumed by the horde. Seeing what was happening outside, Junwoo began shouting, trying to draw the zombies away from the police officer, but it backfired. His yelling only attracted the horde toward him. A massive zombie slammed through his front door. Junwoo rushed forward, using all his strength to push the fridge back against it, but the creature was far too strong. At the last second, he had a flash of inspiration and climbed out over the balcony railing. The zombie lunged at him but missed and fell from the building. Then he looked toward the female officer. She was no longer human. Her eyes were empty. Now she was one of them. Back inside, the first thing he did was reinforce the front door. Only then did he notice the mess the zombie had caused. His precious food supply had been knocked over and scattered. What little he had was now even less. Days passed. His rations dwindled. Eventually, he resorted to sipping on his father's treasured whiskey just to ease the hunger. And of course, that's when a TV commercial started playing. Ramen noodles. The sight of it pushed him over the edge. He gave in and cooked the instant noodles he'd been saving for a last resort meal. For a moment, the warm flavor drowned out the fear, but the peace was short-lived. He accidentally knocked over his water bottle. When he went to the kitchen to refill it, he discovered the water had stopped running. Guilt flooded him. He knelt at the table, licking up the last few drops of water like a desperate animal. Each day became a painful routine. The news repeated the same hopeless broadcasts, and the food was long gone. He was on the verge of collapse. Then suddenly, a voice message from his mom came through. He scrambled for his phone, but the signal was gone. Desperate to hear it, he risked climbing out onto the balcony railing again, stretching for reception. He never expected to hear such a horrifying scream on the other end of the call. His mom was likely gone. Junwoo broke down. He screamed, smashed things, unleashed his fury, but it wasn't enough. Rage burned inside him. He wanted revenge. He flung open the door and smashed the first zombie in sight. Then he deliberately made noise in the hallway, inviting more of them. Come out! Around a corner, he spotted a zombie feeding. It was the same man who had broken into his apartment on day 1. As the creature turned and crawled toward him, Junwoo unleashed a string of curses. Suddenly, he heard movement on his right, a group of zombies charging his way. Panic surged. He bolted, only to find another group closing in from the other side. He slammed the elevator button, praying, just as the zombies closed and the doors opened, but they poured in like a wave. He barely escaped, hiding in a pile of junk nearby, holding his breath. He waited. Finally, when the coast was clear, he made a run for home. Just then, a sound came from behind him again. He ducked behind a wall, thankfully. It was just a blind zombie that didn't sense him. Quietly, he slipped back inside and locked the door, but the sound had already drawn the infected. They pressed against the door, clawing at it. Even in their monstrous state, some lingering memory remained. They were still trying to open it. That night, Junwoo watched in horror as an explosion ripped through the city skyline. Moments later, the power went out. It filled him with a sense of despair like never before. He made up his mind he would end it. At least he could die as a human, on his own terms. Just as he kicked the stool away, a red dot landed on his face. Infrared, a laser sight, coming from across the building. Suddenly, he didn't want to die anymore. He fought and kicked, struggling wildly. Fortunately, the rope wasn't tied too tightly. It snapped. He dropped to the floor, gasping, alive. Across the way stood a girl, beautiful, calm, and very much alive. The sight of another survivor filled him with overwhelming joy. Junwoo waved and gestured excitedly, practically dancing with relief. The girl used hand signals to communicate. They agreed to connect again at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Then, both returned to their rooms. Like Junwoo, she had been trapped alone since the outbreak, but she was clearly more skilled at survival. Her food was strictly rationed. She'd even rigged makeshift traps in her apartment to kill any zombies that broke in. The next morning, they exchanged names. The girl was Eubin. She could tell Junwoo hadn't eaten properly in days and decided to send him some food. Her plan: tie a rope to a baseball and throw it across to his building. But she underestimated the distance between them. Junwoo quickly understood her intent. He grabbed his drone and flew the rope over to her side, bridging the gap. Eubin attached a care package and sent it over. For the first time in days, Junwoo had a full meal and it tasted like hope. But their celebration didn't last long. Junwoo spotted something horrifying. A mutated firefighter zombie had noticed the baseball tied to the rope. Panicked, he tried to warn Eubin. She rushed to untie the rope, but the zombie yanked it hard. The pull sent her crashing into a table, knocking her unconscious. And worse, the firefighter zombie hadn't lost his skills from when he was alive. He started climbing the side of the building. Junwoo's heart pounded. He grabbed a bottle and hurled it at the zombie, trying to draw its attention. No reaction. The creature kept climbing higher and higher, getting dangerously close to Eubin's apartment. Thinking fast, Junwoo launched his drone again, flying it straight at the zombie to distract it. The drone buzzed in its face, slowing it down, but not for long. The zombie struck the drone, knocking it out of the sky, just as the zombie was about to reach the upper floor. Luckily, Eubin woke up just in time. That evening, heavy rain began to pour. Both of them quickly grabbed pots, bowls, and any containers they could find to collect the water. Eubin scanned the surroundings with her binoculars and noticed that the 8th floor of a nearby building seemed to be free of zombies. Their food supplies were running dangerously low. If they wanted to survive, they'd have to go out and search for more. That night, Junwoo wrapped towels around his feet to stay silent. Armed with a baseball bat, he quietly stepped out of his apartment. In the hallway, he found a key on a dead neighbor and used it to enter the apartment. Inside, a body was lying on the floor. Junwoo picked up a shoe and threw it at the figure. No movement. Assuming it was safe, he started scavenging the place. The moment he opened the fridge, a wave of stench hit him, but luckily, the canned food and drinks inside were still edible. Then he entered the room with the corpse and found even more cans along with 2 walkie-talkies. Just as he was about to leave, he made the mistake of going closer to look at the body's face, and that's when a zombie suddenly lunged at him from behind. Reacting fast, Junwoo grabbed the corpse and used it as a shield. Barely avoiding a fatal bite, he sprinted out of the apartment and made it back home in one piece. Back in his safe zone, he enjoyed the spoils of his mission, his fullest meal in days. After eating, he packed up one of the walkie-talkies and half of the food, placing them in a container and sending it over to Eubin via the rope. The next morning, the walkie-talkie crackled to life. Eubin's voice came through, thanking him. Hearing another human voice again filled Junwoo with emotion. In the days that followed, the two spoke through the walkie-talkies daily. Without each other, they probably wouldn't have made it this far. One day, while they were chatting as usual, they suddenly heard the sound of rain. Junwoo rushed to get his containers, but when he opened the window, there was no rain at all. What they had heard wasn't water, it was footsteps. Suddenly, a horde of zombies went into a frenzy and started sprinting in the same direction. The two immediately dropped to the floor, barely daring to breathe. But while Eubin was reaching for her axe, she accidentally knocked over a shelf. The noise instantly attracted the horde. The zombies began moving toward her apartment. Eubin could hear the footsteps getting louder and closer. She froze, paralyzed with fear. Thinking fast, Junwoo asked over the walkie-talkie, "What's your apartment number?" Right as the zombies reached Eubin's door, a phone began ringing in the apartment next door. The horde paused, then turned and swarmed toward the sound instead. It turned out Junwoo had called the neighbor's phone. Eubin collapsed to the floor in relief. There were simply too many zombies on their floor. The two decided they had to make a move, head for the zombie-free floor Eubin had spotted earlier. They packed up everything they had. Eubin secured the rope between the buildings. Just as Junwoo was about to say, "I'll go down first," Eubin coolly jumped off without a word. In an instant, a swarm of zombies charged at her, but Eubin moved with lightning reflexes, dodging several of them before pulling out an ice axe and carving a bloody path through the horde. From above, Junwoo could only stare in awe, but there were just too many of them. As Eubin reached down to grab a fallen gun, a zombie tackled her to the ground. Just in the nick of time, the zombie took a blow to the head. A bat came down hard and crushed its skull. It turned out Junwoo had jumped down to back her up. Fighting side by side, they broke through the horde together. Once inside the building, they quickly shut the glass door, and just as it was about to be shattered by the pressing crowd, they got into the elevator. Sure enough, there were no zombies on the upper floor. They began checking doors, hoping to find a safe room. Suddenly, a zombie appeared at the end of the hallway. At first, they thought it was alone. Junwoo stepped forward to take care of it, but then, a whole pack of zombies came charging toward them. Eubin rushed to try the remaining doors. Junwoo yanked down a metal fence to block the hallway. It held them off briefly, but one zombie reached through and dragged him down. Junwoo fought desperately, swinging his bat with all his strength. Just then one of the doors flung open. Eubin was pulled inside, and a smoke grenade rolled across the floor toward Junwoo. Someone had come to their rescue. Inside the apartment, an older man handed them both glasses of water, but Eubin, still cautious, didn't drink. She remembered clearly, this floor was supposed to be empty. Only after the man took a sip himself did they relax. They gratefully accepted the food he offered as well. The man assured them there was enough to last until the rescue team arrived. The moment they heard rescue team, both of them nearly burst into tears. After surviving so long in a nightmare, they were finally seeing a glimmer of hope. Eubin noticed a family photo on a shelf and asked, "Is that your child?" The man gave a strange, heavy look and said something cryptic.
No. But you two kids arrived today.
What?
Suddenly, Eubin felt dizzy. Moments later, both of them collapsed to the floor. The food had been drugged. As expected, the man wasn't a good person. First, he tied up Junwoo's hands, then dragged Eubin into a room seen from above. It was clearly a child's bedroom. The man stepped out, locked the door behind him, and turned to untie a rope. On the other end was a zombified woman, his wife. It turned out, after his wife turned into a zombie, he couldn't bring himself to kill her, so he lured survivors in, feeding them to her. Maybe his child had already been one of the victims. The moment he loosened the rope, the zombie lunged at Eubin. She screamed in terror, but after a few seconds, everything went quiet. Puzzled, the man opened the door to check.
Honey.
Suddenly, the zombie sank her teeth into his neck. Eubin had muffled her screams with a pillow and managed to avoid the attack. But the man didn't resist. Still in love, he let his wife devour him. Unable to bear the sight, Eubin picked up a gun and ended both their misery. But the gunshot echoed through the building and a swarm of zombies came charging up the stairs. Junwoo and Eubin looked at each other in shock. If the man was a liar, then his talk about a rescue team was probably a lie too. They both knew what might be coming. Terrified of turning into a zombie, Eubin handed the gun to Junwoo. asking him to shoot her, but he couldn't do it. Just as the tension hit its peak, they heard it, the sound of helicopter blades in the distance. It was real. The government's rescue team had arrived. Overwhelmed with emotion, Eubin burst into tears. Hope had returned. They quickly decided to head to the rooftop, their best shot at being spotted. Fully armed, the two of them charged through the building, dodging and shooting as the zombie horde closed in fast. Junwoo told Eubin to go up first and signal the helicopter while he stayed behind to hold them off. But when she reached the rooftop, there was no chopper in sight. Junwoo arrived seconds later. They looked up at the empty sky, devastated.
We're still alive! There are survivors here! We're alive!
We're still alive up here, please help.
We're still alive!
Suddenly, the zombies swarmed the rooftop, pushing them to the edge with nowhere left to run. Their ammo was nearly gone and one last bullet wouldn't be enough. Just as everything seemed lost, the sound of helicopter blades roared behind them. The rescue team had finally arrived. Gunfire rained down, mowing through the zombies. In the chaos, Junwoo and Eubin were pulled to safety. They had survived. For real this time. Not long after, the cell signal came back. Junwoo saw a string of missed calls pop up on his phone, and for the first time in a long while, he smiled.